At $369, the OPPO A80 5G smartphone is a bargain, particularly when you consider that it is technically drop-proof. When someone says robust smartphone, when someone says tough smartphone, what do you think? You probably think of an old Nokia device or something that has hard rubberized edges designed to be dropped or thrown into a toolbox or something like that. What you probably don't expect is a smartphone just 7.68 millimeters thick, which is what you get with the OPPO A80 5G. This phone has been engineered to withstand drops. Now, what that's called in OPPO's language is a 360-degree damage-proof armor body. I don't know if it's actually armor-proof. That doesn't really make sense if you think about it. But what it means when you dive into the fine print on OPPO's website is that it has been tested to withstand drops of up to 1.4 meters on every side and every corner of the device on a marble floor. Now, I didn't have the courage to actually test whether or not the phone could withstand a drop from 1.4 meters on a marble floor. It's not my phone. I'm just playing around with it for a couple of weeks. But I did try dropping it from a lower height onto softer surfaces like grass and carpet, and it bounced a little bit and everything seems to be good. It has a Panda 2 screen, which is a bit more tough than a regular glass screen, and feels like a standard OPPO phone. It doesn't actually look or feel any different to what you would get from the rest of the OPPO range. From a specs perspective, the phone has a 6.67-inch display. It's only a 720p display, which isn't really a surprise given its $369 price point, but it does come with a 120 Hz refresh rate, which does actually make the user interface seem smoother and scrolling seems faster and more responsive than it might on a lower refresh rate phone. The phone also has a brightness level of up to 1000 nits. Now that's a big improvement over the A79 that we reviewed earlier this year. It's bright. In full sunlight, you can see the full screen. I was trying to take some photos with it and it did a good job. Inside, the A80 is a MediaTek Dimensity 6300 processor, which is, as you might expect, on the lower end in terms of performance. From a benchmark perspective, it's actually a little bit worse on the CPU side than the A79, but it's still strong enough to be able to play basic games, to scroll through social media and get through emails and browsing the web. Basic usage is fine. Battery life is actually on the larger side. You get 5,100 milliampere hours battery inside the device, and it supports OPPO's SuperVOOC charging up to 45 watts. Now, unfortunately though, you don't get the fast charger in the box. You need to pay extra in order to get that fast charging capability, which feels like a bit of a shame, honestly. I know there is a real compromise when it comes to getting the price down for a product like this, but given the benefits of fast charging, and given that that is one of OPPO's big marketing plays, it really surprises me that they can't find a way to include the charger in the box. Just on the battery front, before we move on, OPPO has stated that the battery inside the A80 will be good for about 4 years. Now that means that in 4 years' time, it will still have up to 80% minimum charge. And that's something that OPPO is really kind of pioneering the way for in terms of battery technology in smartphones. I've been a big fan of what they're doing with fast charging and their battery technology over the last couple of years. The cameras on the phone, I'm going to be honest, this is probably the biggest area that I'm let down with the phone. The main camera is a 50 megapixel sensor, and it's partnered with a 2 megapixel camera there, which isn't actually used for taking photos. It's more for creating that depth effect when you take a portrait photo in the camera app. OPPO has included AI editing, and look, I'm going to be honest, it's terrible. It's not great at all. I used it on a couple of images. I'll throw them in here. You can see that when you're just removing someone or a person from an environment, it does an okay job. You can still see the shadows, and it's a bit blurry where they were. But when you give it something even, or just that little step up more complicated, like trying to remove a truck, it actually added in another truck, which this is not, to be clear, this is not a tool that is designed to create something in the image like Samsung does. The tool is literally called AI Eraser. It's about removing unwanted images from your picture. So for it to take out the truck that I had a photo of and put something else in and have it covered in leaves just shows that this technology honestly isn't that great, and certainly isn't appropriate for a phone at this price point. I don't think it makes sense to go and buy a phone because it may or may not resist the impact when you drop it. I have people that I know within my family who have a tendency to drop phones, and I would never let them leave the house without a case on their device. But something like this, you could probably get away without using a case, and it will probably be fine for a while. When you factor in that robust build and the fact that battery life is due to last for at least 4 years, over 80% capacity, the fact that you only get 2 years or 2 operating system updates seems a little bit off. It doesn't seem balanced. I get that this is a cheaper phone, so you don't want it to have those overly expensive commitments to operating updates, but at the same time, 4 years battery, robust build. This is a device that you may want to keep for longer than just 2 years. So having a longer update period would make sense to me. The one other thing that I want to call out with this phone, and it's true of all OPPO phones, is OPPO has a tendency to load up your device with crap. It's full of low quality games that you may or may not be interested in downloading and playing. It's full of apps that you may or may not be interested in using. But given the nature of Android and the open or relatively open marketplace there is for downloading games, the fact that you don't have a choice in a brand new phone, that there's games like Yahtzee, which is not Yahtzee, it's Yatzy, or Candy Crush, pre-installed on the device, really rubs me the wrong way. It may not rub you the wrong way, I totally get it, but for me, just having that there doesn't feel like something that I want on a device that I pay for, whether it's a budget phone or something more expensive. So overall, this is a solid budget phone. It's not going to blow you away, but how many phones under $400 are really going to blow you away in terms of camera or processor performance? Not many. So when you factor in the robust build and the solid battery life and the fast refresh rate on the screen and the brightness and the fast charging and the battery life longevity, the fact that you can pick this phone up for $369 does seem like good value. Just be aware that it's not going to be great for taking photos. You're not going to get really stunning images that you can share on social media. The editing functions using AI are not worth looking at all, but even the photos themselves tend to look a little bit grainy if you do even the slightest bit of cropping. If you're after a cheap phone, definitely worth considering. If you're after something that performs better, you're probably better off looking at one of the more premium Motorola G series or Edge 50 devices, which will perform a bit better and have slightly better cameras. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can hit me up in comments if you have any questions or any comments on the review.